They fired the scientist for being elderly, but he was the only one. Dr. Thompson held the letter with trembling hands, while the new director explained that the company needed to modernize and make room for young talent. At 72 years old, the scientist who had dedicated 43 years of his life to that pharmaceutical laboratory in Chicago was receiving a dismissal disguised as compulsory retirement. "Dr. Thompson, you understand our position, don't you?" said Richard Parker, the director who was only 35 and had taken the position 3 months prior. "We need new blood, people who understand current technologies." The scientist looked around the laboratory, where he had spent almost half his life. The workbenches filled with equipment he himself had requested over the years, the cabinets organized with millimeter precision, every bottle hand-labeled with his careful handwriting. All of that would be handed over to someone who barely knew the basic processes of chemical synthesis. "But Mr. Parker," tried to argue Dr. Thompson, adjusting his glasses on his nose, "I still have ongoing projects, research I spent years developing. Research that hasn't produced any commercial product in the last 5 years," cut in Richard, flipping through a folder. "You need to understand, we live in a different era. Investors want quick results, not endless experiments." Emily Wilson, the 28-year-old research assistant who had worked with Dr. Thompson for 4 years, watched the scene from a distance. She knew better than anyone the value of the scientist's work. She had learned more from him in 4 years than in her entire academic training. The young woman clenched her fists, feeling a mix of anger and powerlessness. Dr. Thompson took a deep breath. He had so much to say, so much to explain, but the words seemed stuck in his throat. How could he explain that his latest research, started 15 years ago after seeing his wife Margaret suffer from a degenerative disease, was finally close to a promising result? How could he make that young executive understand that some processes cannot be artificially accelerated? "When do I need to leave the laboratory?" he asked, his voice weaker than he would have liked. "You have 2 weeks to organize your things and hand over the projects to the team that will take over," replied Richard, already putting the papers away. "Human resources will handle the bureaucratic part of the retirement." Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out. Now, continuing. That afternoon, Dr. Thompson stayed in the laboratory later than usual. Emily also stayed, organizing some experiments while watching the scientist out of the corner of her eye. He was standing in front of a specific cabinet, the one he always kept locked and to which only he had access. "Doctor," Emily approached cautiously, "can I help with anything?" The scientist turned around. His eyes, normally bright when he talked about his research, were dull. "Emily, my dear, you have always been an excellent assistant," he said with a sad smile, "very observant, very dedicated." "You shouldn't accept this dismissal like this," the young woman blurted out. "What they are doing isn't fair." Dr. Thompson opened the cabinet with a small golden key. Inside were dozens of notebooks, bottles with carefully identified samples, and some smaller pieces of equipment he had acquired with his own money over the years. "You know, Emily, when my Margaret started showing the first signs of the illness, I promised her I would find a solution," he said, picking up one of the notebooks. "It was an impossible promise, I knew that, but love sometimes makes us attempt the impossible." Emily moved closer, intrigued. In 4 years of working together, Dr. Thompson had never mentioned personal research. "What kind of solution, Doctor?" "A compound capable of regenerating damaged neural connections," he explained, flipping through the notebook filled with handwritten chemical formulas. "Something that could not only slow the progression of degenerative diseases, but effectively reverse some of the damage." Emily's eyes widened. She knew enough about neurology to understand the magnitude of what the scientist was suggesting. "Doctor, that would be revolutionary." "It would be, if I could finish it," sighed Dr. Thompson. "But now I no longer have access to the necessary equipment for the final tests." At that moment, Richard Parker passed by the laboratory door on his way out. He stopped and looked inside. "Dr. Thompson, you don't need to stay so late. You have 2 weeks to get organized." "I'm just reviewing some notes," the scientist replied, quickly closing the notebook. Richard entered the laboratory, curious. "What notes are those? If they are part of the company's projects, they should remain here. They are personal notes, said Dr. Thompson, putting the notebook away in the cabinet. Personal? Richard raised his voice. Doctor, I hope you haven't developed side research using company resources. That would be a serious violation of your contract. Emily felt the tension growing in the room. She knew Dr. Thompson well enough to know he would never do anything unethical, but she also knew that Richard was looking for any reason to complicate the scientist's situation. Mr. Parker, Emily intervened, the doctor has always been extremely ethical in his research. If he says they are personal notes, we can trust him. Richard looked at the young woman with irritation. Miss Wilson, I suggest you focus on your own responsibilities. And Dr. Thompson, that cabinet needs to be emptied and its contents evaluated by the transition team. Dr. Thompson felt a shiver down his spine. If Richard discovered his research on neural regeneration, he would certainly try to take possession of the work. Of course, Mr. Parker, he agreed, forcing a smile. I will organize everything properly. After Richard left, Emily approached the scientist again. Doctor, you can't let him have access to your personal research. And how will I stop him, my dear? Technically, any research developed in this laboratory belongs to the company. Emily thought for a moment. Did you develop this research entirely here? Dr. Thompson shook his head. No. A large part was done at home, mainly on weekends and holidays. Only the preliminary tests were done here, using equipment I brought from home in some cases. Then that might make a difference, said Emily, excited. If the research was developed mainly outside of work hours and with your own resources. That night, Dr. Thompson arrived home more dejected than ever. His 17-year-old granddaughter, Olivia, who had lived with him since she was 5 when she lost her parents in an accident, immediately noticed something was wrong. Grandpa, are you all right? She asked, looking up from the book she was reading in the living room. Dr. Thompson tried to hide it, but Olivia knew him too well. Just a difficult day at the laboratory, my dear. Grandpa, Olivia got up from the armchair. I know when you're lying. Did something serious happen? The scientist sat down next to his granddaughter. Olivia was his only family since Margaret had passed away, 8 years before. She was a bright girl, already in her last year of high school, with plans to study biology at university. Today I received a retirement proposal, he said, choosing his words carefully. A proposal? Olivia raised an eyebrow. Or an imposition? Dr. Thompson smiled sadly. His granddaughter really was very perceptive. They fired me, Liv. They said I need to make way for younger people. Olivia felt a wave of indignation. That's absurd. You are the most competent scientist in that place. How many times have I seen your colleagues calling the house asking for help with their research? The world has changed, my dear. Now they value speed more than experience. Olivia stood up and began to walk around the room, as she always did when she was thinking intensely. Grandpa, you always told me that when one door closes, others open. Maybe it's time to explore those other doors. Dr. Thompson looked at his granddaughter with affection. Even at 17, she showed impressive maturity. And what doors would those be, Liv? Your personal research, she said, stopping in front of her grandfather. You think I don't know about them? How many times have I seen you working until the early hours in the garage, testing formulas, writing down results? The scientist was surprised. He had always tried to keep his side projects discreet, especially to avoid worrying his granddaughter. Liv, how did you... Grandpa? I've lived here for 12 years. I know everything that happens in this house, she smiled. And I know you're developing something important related to Grandma Margaret. Dr. Thompson sighed deeply. There was no point in hiding it anymore. It's true, I'm trying to develop a treatment for degenerative diseases, something that could have helped your grandmother. And are you close to succeeding? I was, but now without access to the laboratory. Who says you need that laboratory? Interrupted Olivia. Grandpa, you have enough knowledge to work independently, and you have contacts in the scientific community who respect your work. As grandfather and granddaughter talked, the phone rang. It was Michael Thompson, Dr. Thompson's son and a cardiologist at a private hospital in the city. Dad, I heard about your retirement, said Michael, without beating around the bush. Congratulations, you can finally rest. Dr. Thompson sighed. His relationship with his son had always been complicated. Michael never understood his father's passion for research, considering it a waste of time compared to lucrative medical practice. It wasn't exactly a voluntary retirement, Michael. Well, either way, it was time. You're over 70, Dad. You're at the age to enjoy life, travel, rest. And what if I don't want to rest? Asked Dr. Thompson, feeling his irritation grow. Dad, be realistic. You're not young anymore. Those endless researches haven't led anywhere. Maybe it's time to accept reality. Olivia, who was listening to the conversation nearby, made a face of disapproval. She had never liked her uncle's attitude toward her grandfather. Michael, my research may not have generated commercial products, but it has scientific value, defended Dr. Thompson. Scientific value doesn't pay the bills, Dad. You should be proud of having worked so long for a good company. Now, it's time to rest. After hanging up, Dr. Thompson felt even more discouraged. Even his own son didn't believe in his work. Grandpa, don't listen to him, said Olivia, sitting down next to her grandfather again. Uncle Michael never understood what you do, but I do, and Emily understands too. Dr. Thompson smiled slightly. You're right about Emily. She's one of the few who truly values knowledge. Then work together, suggested Olivia. You don't have to do everything alone. The next morning, Dr. Thompson arrived at the laboratory determined to collect his personal belongings before Richard could take any drastic action. To his surprise, he found Emily already working, much earlier than usual. Good morning, Doctor, she greeted him. I came in early to help you organize your things. Thank you, Emily, that's very kind of you. While organizing the materials, Emily made a troubling observation. Doctor, last night after you left, I saw a light on in the laboratory. I thought it was security, but when I passed by the window this morning, I noticed some of your notebooks were in different positions. Dr. Thompson stopped what he was doing. Are you sure about that? Absolutely. You always leave the notebooks aligned on the right side. Today they were on the left. The scientist ran to his cabinet and unlocked it with his key. His notebooks were there, but definitely not in the order he usually kept them. Someone has been in here, he murmured, quickly flipping through his notes. Doctor, some pages have been photographed, said Emily, pointing to small crease marks that weren't there before. Look how these pages are slightly crumpled at the edges. Dr. Thompson felt a chill in his stomach. If someone had photographed his notes, especially the advanced formulas for his neural compound, they could try to take credit for his research. We need to find out who did this, he said, closing the cabinet. I have an idea, said Emily. The building's security system records everything. We can check who entered the laboratory after hours. The two headed to the security room where Robert, the night watchman, who had known Dr. Thompson for over 20 years, greeted them with surprise. Dr. Thompson, what brings you here so early? Robert, we need to check last night's recordings. Someone entered my laboratory after hours. Robert shook his head. That can't be, Doctor. Only Mr. Parker came through here yesterday around 9 in the evening. He said he forgot some documents. Dr. Thompson and Emily exchanged meaningful glances. Robert, can you show us the recording? Emily asked. The watchman hesitated. Well, I shouldn't, but since it's Dr. Thompson, he said, turning on the system. On the screen, they clearly saw Richard entering the building at 9:15 p.m., heading directly to Dr. Thompson's laboratory and staying there for almost an hour. An hour to pick up forgotten documents, Emily commented ironically. Robert, can you make a copy of this recording? Asked Dr. Thompson. Doctor, I really can't do that. It would violate company policy. I understand, said Dr. Thompson thoughtfully. At that moment, Richard arrived at the building. Through the security room window, the three of them could see him talking on his cell phone in the parking lot. Yes, I got access to the research. No, he doesn't suspect anything yet. The formulas are more advanced than we imagined. The words reached them in fragments. Robert, Emily, and Dr. Thompson looked at each other, astonished. Doctor, whispered Emily, he's selling your research. Dr. Thompson felt a mixture of anger and betrayal. 43 years dedicated to that company, and now he was seeing his work being brazenly stolen. We need more concrete evidence, he said, controlling his emotion. Doctor, I have an idea, Robert said quietly. My nephew works for the security company that monitors this building. Maybe he can help us." Later that day, Dr. Thompson received an unexpected call at home. It was Jennifer Parker, Richard's wife. "Mr. Thompson, this is Jennifer, Richard's wife. I need to speak with you urgently." "Mrs. Parker, how can I help you?" "I'd rather speak in person. Can I meet you this afternoon? It's about a delicate medical situation." Dr. Thompson agreed to the meeting, intrigued. They arranged to meet at a small coffee shop in the city center. Jennifer arrived visibly nervous. She was an elegant woman of about 40, but with a look of deep concern in her eyes. "Doctor, what I'm about to tell you must stay between us," she began, nervously stirring her coffee cup. "2 years ago I was diagnosed with a degenerative disease. The doctors said that I have at most 5 years. Dr. Thompson felt immediate compassion for the woman. "I'm very sorry, Mrs. Parker, but I don't understand how I can help you." "Richard doesn't know that I found out about his research," she continued. "He mentioned at home about a revolutionary treatment that an obsolete scientist was developing. I looked into it and discovered it was you." The scientist was surprised. "Your husband talked about my research at home?" "Not only talked about it, but said he had gained access to the formulas and intends to commercialize them through a partner company," revealed Jennifer, with tears in her eyes. "Doctor, my husband is stealing your work to get rich, while I am here dying from the disease your research could cure." Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video, and especially to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Dr. Thompson was silent for a few moments, processing the information. The situation was even more complex than he had imagined. "Mrs. Parker, my research is not yet complete. I can't guarantee that." "I know that," she interrupted, "but I have hope, and I cannot allow Richard to destroy not only your work, but also the chance for other people like me to receive treatment." "What are you proposing?" "Help me expose what he is doing. I have access to his computers and documents at home. I can get the proof we need." Dr. Thompson hesitated. Involving Richard's wife in the situation could complicate everything even further. "Mrs. Parker, I don't want to put you in a difficult situation with your husband." "Doctor, my husband has already put me in the most difficult situation possible when he decided to steal the only hope I had of surviving," she said with surprising firmness. "I won't just stand by and do nothing." That night, Dr. Thompson talked at length with Olivia about the situation. "Grandpa, this woman is right," said his granddaughter. "You can't allow this man to steal years of your work." "But Liv, if I get involved in a legal process, I could lose even more time to finish the research." "And if you don't get involved, you could lose the entire research," Olivia replied. "Grandpa, sometimes we need to fight for what is ours." The next day, Dr. Thompson arrived at the laboratory and found an unpleasant surprise. His locker had been forced open, and all his personal notebooks and samples had disappeared. Emily arrived shortly after and found the scientist staring at the empty locker with an expression of despair. "Doctor, what happened?" "They took everything, Emily. All my notebooks, all the samples, 15 years of work." Emily felt an intense anger growing inside her. "It was Richard. It couldn't have been anyone else. But we have no way to prove it." At that moment, Richard entered the laboratory, feigning surprise. "Wow, Dr. Thompson, what happened here? It looks like there was a robbery." Dr. Thompson stared intently at the director. "It certainly looks that way, Mr. Parker." "Well, unfortunately, we have had some security problems in the building. I'll have it investigated," said Richard with a fake smile. "I hope it wasn't anything too important." "Just 15 years of personal research," replied Dr. Thompson, not hiding his bitterness. "What a shame. Well, Doctor, since you've lost your personal belongings, perhaps it's best to speed up your departure. How about saying your goodbyes today? The company can expedite the retirement paperwork." Emily couldn't contain herself. "Mr. Parker, this is outrageous. First you fire the doctor unjustly. Now you want to push him out before his time." "Miss Wilson, watch your tone," warned Richard. "And Dr. Thompson, accepting the proposal would be good for both of us. We would avoid unnecessary embarrassment." Dr. Thompson understood the implicit threat perfectly. "I understand perfectly, Mr. Parker." After Richard left, Emily approached the scientist. "Doctor, we can't let him get away with this." "And what do you suggest, Emily? He holds all the cards now." "Perhaps not all of them," said Emily, taking a small flash drive from her pocket. "Last night, after our discovery, I came back here and photographed every page of his main notebooks. I also recorded his explanations of the processes." Dr. Thompson looked at the young woman with admiration and gratitude. "Emily, you did this knowing you could be fired." "I did it because I believe in your work, Doctor, and because I know it can save lives." That same day, Jennifer called Dr. Thompson. "Doctor, I've obtained some important information. Richard is negotiating with an American company to sell his formulas. The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow." "Mrs. Parker, how did you get this information?" "I recorded a phone conversation of his. Doctor, I need to tell you something. Richard knows about my illness, but he doesn't know that I know about his plans. He is using my situation to speed up the sale, telling the buyers he has a personal motivation to ensure the treatment reaches the market quickly." Dr. Thompson felt nauseous. The situation was even more sordid than he had imagined. "This is monstrous. That's why I need to help you stop him," said Jennifer with determination. "I won't allow him to profit from my illness by stealing the work of others." That night, Dr. Thompson, Olivia, Emily, and Jennifer met at the scientist's house to plan how to expose Richard. "We have the recordings of the phone conversations, the images of the laboratory break-in, and the copies of the research," summarized Emily. "But we're still missing the direct link between Richard and the theft of the notebooks," observed Olivia. "I have an idea," said Jennifer. "Richard is meeting with the buyers tomorrow. If we can record that meeting—" "It's too risky for you," protested Dr. Thompson. "Doctor, I will be attending that meeting regardless. Richard wants to introduce me to the buyers as the inspiration behind the project's urgency," said Jennifer with bitterness. "It's the perfect chance to get the evidence we need." The next day, as Jennifer prepared for the meeting with a small hidden recorder, Dr. Thompson received an unexpected visitor. It was Dr. Gerald Roberts, former director of the company and Dr. Thompson's mentor during his early years at the company. "Walter, I heard about your forced retirement," said the 78-year-old man, still imposing despite his age. "I came here to say it's a complete outrage." "Dr. Roberts, it's good to see you," said Dr. Thompson, inviting his old mentor inside. "I didn't know you were following the situation." "Emily told me everything," revealed Dr. Roberts, "including about the theft of your research." Dr. Thompson was surprised. "Emily spoke with you?" "She is worried, Walter, and so am I. You know I was pushed out of the company by the same process, don't you?" "How so?" Dr. Roberts sat down heavily in the armchair. 5 years ago, when I turned 68, this Richard fellow began a systematic campaign to modernize the company. He forced me out, claiming I was outdated. Then he did the same thing to other experienced scientists. But why? Because it's easier to exploit the work of young, inexperienced researchers than to negotiate with experienced scientists who know the value of their own work, explained Dr. Roberts. Your case is just the latest in a series. Dr. Thompson processed the information slowly. "Dr. Roberts, are you suggesting this was planned? Not just planned, but systematized. Richard has a pattern. He identifies researchers with promising projects, forces them out of the company, appropriates their work, and negotiates with foreign companies." At that moment, Dr. Thompson's phone rang. It was Jennifer, whispering, "Doctor, I'm in the meeting. I got some shocking information. Richard is not acting alone. He's part of a larger scheme to steal intellectual property. I'll send the recordings as soon as I leave here." An hour later, Jennifer arrived at Dr. Thompson's house, visibly shaken. "Doctor, the situation is much worse than we imagined," she said, sitting down and accepting a glass of water that Olivia offered her. "Richard is selling not only your research, but also stolen work from other scientists who were let go." "How many others?" asked Dr. Roberts. "At least 8 in the last 3 years, replied Jennifer. "And the worst part, the American company that's buying the research knows perfectly well that it's stolen. They pay low prices precisely for that reason." Dr. Thompson stood up, pacing the room anxiously. This means that decades of American scientific research are being sold for a fraction of their real value. Exactly, confirmed Jennifer, and Richard gets a commission on each transaction. He's already made millions from this scheme. Emily arrived at that moment with equally worrying news. Doctor, I spoke with other former employees of the company. The story repeats itself. Experienced scientists being forced to retire, research mysteriously disappearing, projects being discontinued, only to resurface at other companies. Dr. Roberts shook his head sadly. Walter, you need to report this. It's not just about your research. It's about the future of American science. But Dr. Roberts, who will believe the word of a group of retired scientists against a successful director of a respected company? We have proof, said Emily, showing a folder full of documents. We spoke with 8 former employees. They all have similar stories, and 3 of them kept evidence. Olivia, who had been following everything in silence, finally spoke. Grandpa, you always taught me that knowledge is power, but only when it's used for good. That man is using stolen knowledge to get rich at the expense of others suffering. Dr. Thompson looked at his granddaughter with pride. Even at 17, she understood the ethical dimension of the situation better than many adults. You're right, Liv. I can't allow this to continue. That night, the group devised a plan to expose Richard and his scheme. Dr. Roberts would use his contacts in the scientific community to give credibility to the accusations. Emily would organize all the technical evidence, Jennifer would provide the meeting recordings, and Dr. Thompson would write a detailed report of the entire scheme. The next day, Dr. Thompson was surprised by a call from his son, Michael. Dad, I need to speak with you urgently. Can I come over? When Michael arrived, he had a serious expression that Dr. Thompson hadn't seen in years. Dad, I apologize for not taking your work seriously, he began. Last night I read some of your old scientific articles, and this morning a colleague of mine, a doctor, came to me talking about rumors of a revolutionary treatment for degenerative diseases being developed in secret. Dr. Thompson was intrigued. What kind of rumors? Apparently, a foreign company is offering a new treatment on the medical black market. The price is astronomical, but the preliminary results are impressive, explained Michael. When my colleague described the chemical compound, I recognized some formulas from your old articles. Dr. Thompson felt his blood run cold. Michael, are you saying that... I'm saying that someone is illegally marketing your research, Dad, and making millions from it. At that moment, Olivia entered the room with the laptop. Grandpa, you need to see this. I found the company that's selling your treatments online. On the screen, there was a sophisticated website offering advanced neurological treatments at prices ranging from $50,000 to $200,000 per patient. My God, murmured Dr. Thompson, reading the treatment description. They are using my exact formulas but selling them without any proper safety testing. Michael turned pale. Father, does this mean people are being treated with an experimental compound without proper medical approval? Exactly, confirmed Dr. Thompson. And if something goes wrong, not only will these people's lives be at risk, but all legitimate research on neural regeneration will be discredited. Jennifer, who had arrived during the conversation, added even more serious information. Doctor, Richard mentioned that there are already over 100 patients being treated with your compound in the United Kingdom and Europe. Dr. Thompson sat down heavily. The situation had become much bigger than a simple case of research theft. Human lives were at risk. I need to stop this treatment immediately, he said. If my research hasn't been properly tested, it could cause severe side effects. How can you do that, Grandpa? Asked Olivia. By publishing an international scientific alert, replied Dr. Thompson. But to do that, I need to prove that I am the true author of the research. Dr. Roberts, who had arrived moments before, heard the last part of the conversation. Walter, I have some news that might help. The true owner of the company where you worked has returned to the United States. He was in Europe for 2 years, but he heard the rumors about improper practices. Mr. Howard Mitchell? Asked Dr. Thompson, surprised. Exactly. He wants to meet with us tomorrow. The next morning, Dr. Thompson, Emily, Dr. Roberts and Jennifer met with Howard Mitchell, a 62-year-old man who had founded the pharmaceutical company 40 years earlier. "Dr. Thompson, I offer my deepest apologies for what happened," began Howard. "I left Richard in charge trusting his credentials, but I've received concerning reports from several former employees." "Mr. Mitchell, the situation is very grave," said Dr. Thompson, presenting all the evidence they had gathered. Howard examined the documents with growing indignation. "This is unacceptable. Richard has not only violated the trust I placed in him, but has also put the company's reputation, built over decades, at risk." "There's more, Mr. Mitchell," said Emily. "We discovered that Richard was planning to sell the entire company to the foreign group, claiming financial difficulties." Howard was visibly shocked. "Sell my company? By what authority?" "With a power of attorney you signed before your trip," revealed Jennifer, showing a copy of the document. "Richard showed it to me by chance during a conversation. He said you had given him carte blanche to run the company." Howard examined the document and became furious. "This is a crude forgery. I would never sign such a broad power of attorney. And look," he said, pointing to the signature, "they didn't even try to imitate my handwriting properly." Dr. Roberts intervened. "Howard, we have evidence that this scheme extends far beyond your company. Richard was coordinating intellectual property theft on a national scale." "Then he needs to be apprehended immediately," said Howard, picking up the phone. At that moment, Emily received an urgent call from Robert, the security guard. "Emily, I need to warn you. Richard is in the laboratory right now destroying equipment and documents. It seems he found out that you are investigating." "Let's go there now," said Dr. Thompson, standing up. "Doctor, it could be dangerous," warned Jennifer. "I cannot allow him to destroy other research work that might still be there," replied Dr. Thompson with determination. The group arrived at the company and found a chaotic scene. Richard was in the laboratory with two men who Dr. Walter didn't even look up, busy packing equipment and documents. When Richard saw the group entering, his expression changed from surprise to despair, and then to aggression. "You have no authority to be here," he said, trying to block the way. "I do," said Howard, stepping out from behind the group. "This is my company, Richard, and you're fired." Richard paled. "Mr. Mitchell, I can explain everything." "You can explain it to the company's lawyer," Howard cut him off. "And you can also explain it to the investigators who arrived with me." At that moment, 3 investigators in plain clothes entered the laboratory. "Richard Parker, you need to come with us to provide clarification regarding the misappropriation of intellectual property," one of them said. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like this video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It's a great help to us who are just starting out. Now back to the story. Richard tried to argue, but the evidence was overwhelming. Jennifer's recordings, the forged documents, the testimonies of former employees, and the footage of the laboratory break-in formed a solid case. During the interrogation, which Dr. Thompson and the others attended as witnesses, Richard admitted to the scheme but tried to downplay his responsibility. "I was only trying to modernize the company," he claimed. "These old scientists weren't producing commercial results." "Modernize by stealing others' research and selling it without authorization?" questioned the investigator. "The research was developed at the company using company resources." "False claims," interrupted Dr. Thompson, presenting his personal notes and receipts for equipment purchased with his own funds. "I can prove that I developed a large part of the research outside of work hours." The investigator turned to Richard. "Mr. Parker, we have evidence that you organized a systematic scheme for the appropriation of scientific research. This constitutes crimes against intellectual property, document forgery, and forming a criminal organization." Richard finally broke down and confessed to everything. The scheme involved not only Howard's company, but a network of intermediaries who identified promising researchers at various institutions, forced them out, and appropriated their work. "How many scientists were harmed?" asked Dr. Roberts. "At least 23 in the last 5 years," Richard admitted. "But I swear it wasn't my idea. I was contacted by an international group that organized this type of operation." The investigation stretched on for several weeks. During that time, Dr. Thompson worked intensively, to alert the international medical community about the risks of the unauthorized treatments being commercialized based on his research. Emily helped him organize a detailed scientific article explaining the current stage of his research, the tests still needed, and the potential risks of premature use of the compound. "Doctor, we've received responses from 15 international medical institutions," Emily reported. "They have all immediately suspended the unauthorized use of the treatment and are collaborating to identify any patients who may have been exposed." "Any serious side effects reported?" asked Dr. Thompson, worried. "Fortunately, no. It seems your formulas are safer than we feared, but there is still much testing to be done." Olivia, who had been following everything closely, made a suggestion. "Grandpa, why don't we use all this attention your research is getting to secure proper funding to finish it the right way?" Dr. Thompson looked at his granddaughter with admiration. "That's a brilliant idea, Liv." "Doctor," Roberts agreed. "Walter, several universities have already expressed interest in supporting your research. You could set up an independent laboratory with academic support." Howard also offered to help. "Dr. Thompson, my company is at your disposal. We can create a special research department with you as the scientific director. No commercial interference." But Dr. Thompson had made a different decision. "I appreciate all the offers, but I want to do something different. I want to create an independent research institute where experienced scientists can work in collaboration with young researchers, a place where experience is valued, not discarded." Jennifer, who had been undergoing experimental treatment by Dr. Thompson with safer versions of his compound, was showing promising signs of improvement. "Doctor, not only has my condition stabilized, but some symptoms have even reversed," she reported during a checkup. "Your 15 years of research were worth every minute, Doctor." Thompson smiled. "Actually, Mrs. Parker, it was 43 years of research. Everything I learned at that company contributed to this discovery." The story had a national impact. Newspapers and scientific magazines highlighted not only the promising medical discovery, but also the problem of age discrimination in the scientific community. Michael, Dr. Thompson's son, approached his father a few weeks later. "Father, I apologize for all those years of misunderstanding," he said, visibly moved. "I've seen how the medical press is talking about your work. You are internationally recognized as a pioneer in neural regeneration research." "Michael, I never needed external recognition to value my work," replied Dr. Thompson gently. "But I am happy that you finally understand the importance of scientific research." "More than understand, Father. I want to participate. I can help with the clinical trials of your compound. My experience as a cardiologist could be useful for monitoring cardiovascular side effects." Dr. Thompson was surprised and touched by his son's change of heart. "It would be an honor to work with you, Michael." Months later, the Thompson Institute for Neural Research was inaugurated in a modern building in Chicago. Dr. Thompson was the scientific director, Emily the research coordinator, Dr. Roberts the senior advisor, and a team of 15 researchers of different ages worked in harmony. Olivia, who had started college as a biology major, was interning at the institute in her free time. "Grandpa, you managed to turn a terrible situation into something wonderful," she commented, watching the activity in the laboratory. "It wasn't just me, Liv. It was a whole team of people who believed that knowledge and experience have value, regardless of age." Doctor. Thompson's compound for neural regeneration was entering the final phase of clinical trials, with promising results for treating various degenerative diseases. But the scientist knew there was still much work ahead. Howard also benefited from the situation. His company, free from Richard's corruption, quickly recovered its reputation and established ethical partnerships with Dr. Thompson's institute. "Dr. Thompson, our company has never had such promising results," Howard commented during a visit to the institute. "It proves that honesty and ethics are always the best long-term business." Richard was sentenced to 5 years in prison and a heavy fine for embezzlement, document forgery, and forming a criminal organization. During the trial, 27 scientists testified about how they were harmed by the scheme. Jennifer divorced Richard and became a spokesperson for a national awareness campaign about degenerative diseases. Her recovery, scientifically documented, became an important case study for Dr. Thompson's research. "Doctor, sometimes I think my illness was a gift," she said during a speech she gave about her experience. "It allowed me to learn about his work and help expose a corrupt system that was harming American science." Dr. Thompson, watching the lecture, reflected on how seemingly negative events can lead to unexpectedly positive outcomes. 1 year after the Institute's creation, Dr. Thompson received a surprising phone call. It was from the Department of Science and Technology. "Dr. Thompson, we would like to invite you to chair a national committee to combat the theft of scientific intellectual property," said the voice on the phone. "Your case has inspired important changes in legislation, and we need your expertise to implement the new measures." Dr. Thompson accepted the invitation. At 73 years old, he was more active and professionally recognized than ever. Emily, now a doctor of pharmacology and Dr. Thompson's partner at the Institute, was coordinating an international team of researchers interested in neural regeneration. "Doctor, we received the 15th partnership request from foreign universities today," she reported during a meeting. "Your research is changing paradigms all over the world. And most importantly, Emily, it's being developed ethically and safely," replied Dr. Thompson. "I prefer to move slowly and save lives rather than rush and put them at risk." Dr. Roberts, despite being nearly 80 years old, remained active as an advisor to the Institute and a mentor to young researchers. "Walter, you have proven that experience and youth are not opposites. They are complements," he said during a seminar. "This institute is proof that different generations can work together for the common good." Dr. Thompson's story inspired significant changes in the American job market. Companies began to rethink their mandatory retirement policies, and the government implemented new laws protecting against age discrimination. Olivia, now in her 3rd year of college, had chosen to specialize in neurobiology, inspired by her grandfather's work. "Grandpa, I've discovered I want to dedicate my life to research just like you," she said during a family dinner. "But I want to focus on preventing degenerative diseases so people never have to go through what Grandma Margaret went through." Dr. Thompson smiled with tears in his eyes. "Your grandmother would be very proud, Liv, and I am too." Michael had become a valuable collaborator at the Institute, applying his cardiology knowledge to make treatments safer. His relationship with his father had finally found a balance of mutual respect. "Father, I've learned more about medicine in the last few months working with you than in years of conventional clinical practice," admitted Michael. Scientific research truly changes lives. The Institute had also become a model of age inclusion, employing researchers from 22 to 82 years old, all contributing their unique perspectives. Robert, the former security guard who had helped expose Richard, was hired as the Institute's security coordinator, ensuring no research would ever be compromised again. "Dr. Thompson, it's an honor to protect a place where science is truly valued," he said, proud of his new role. 2 years after his forced dismissal, Dr. Thompson was invited to give a lecture at the country's most prestigious university. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and researchers of all ages. "2 years ago they told me I was obsolete," he began, provoking laughter from the audience. "They said science was for the young. That experience had no value in the modern world." The audience fell silent, attentive. "Today I am here to say that knowledge does not have an expiration date. Experience does not age. And collaboration between generations is the key to the greatest scientific discoveries." Enthusiastic applause echoed through the auditorium. "Don't let anyone dismiss you because of your age, whether you're very young or very experienced. We all have something valuable to contribute to the progress of humanity." After the lecture, dozens of students and researchers approached to speak with Dr. Thompson. Many were older scientists who had faced similar discrimination and young researchers who admired his perseverance. A master's student approached timidly. "Professor Walter, my grandfather is a retired chemist and always says he's no longer good for anything. May I show him your story?" "Of course, my dear," replied Dr. Thompson, touched. "And tell him it's never too late to contribute to science." The compound for neural regeneration finally received approval for human clinical trials. The preliminary results exceeded all expectations, with over 80% of patients showing significant improvement. Jennifer was one of the first patients of the approved treatment. 3 years after the experimental treatment began, she was completely free of the disease's symptoms. "Dr. Thompson, you not only saved my life, but you saved the lives of thousands of people you don't even know," she said during a celebration ceremony. "And you proved that wisdom is worth more than youth when it comes to science." The Institute had become a world reference in neural research, receiving scientists from dozens of countries for collaborations and training. Emily, now recognized as one of the world's leading specialists in neural regeneration, attributed all her success to the period working with Dr. Thompson. "I learned from the doctor that science isn't about competition or speed," she said in an interview. "It's about persistence, ethics, and dedication to the common good." Dr. Roberts remained active at 82 years old, mentoring young researchers and telling inspiring stories about decades of scientific discoveries. "Experience has taught me that every failure is a step toward success," he would tell the interns. "And that age is just a number when you have a passion for knowledge." Olivia had graduated with honors and entered the doctoral program at her grandfather's own institute, developing research on the prevention of neurodegenerative diseases. "Grandpa, I want to continue your legacy, but also create my own path in science," she said during her doctoral project presentation. "That's exactly what I hope for you, Liv," replied Dr. Thompson, proud. "That you use what I've learned as a foundation to go much further." The case of Richard Parker became mandatory study in business ethics and intellectual property courses. Universities used the story to warn about the dangers of age discrimination and the misappropriation of research. Howard transformed his company into a model of ethical management, creating mentorship programs where experienced employees passed knowledge to younger ones. "I learned that a company is only strong when it values all its talents, regardless of age," he said at a business conference. The Institute also developed a social program, offering free treatments for low-income patients with degenerative diseases. Dr. Thompson's compound had already benefited more than 10,000 people worldwide. 5 years after his forced dismissal, Dr. Thompson received the International Award for Excellence in Medical Research. At 77 years old, he was at the peak of his scientific career. During his award acceptance speech, he looked into the audience and saw Emily, Olivia, Michael, Dr. Roberts, Jennifer, and even Robert, all applauding enthusiastically. "This award isn't mine," he said into the microphone. "It belongs to everyone who believed that knowledge has no age, that experience has value, and that science is a collective work." He paused for a moment, emotional. "5 years ago, they tried to convince me that I was obsolete. Today, I know that no one is obsolete as long as they have something to contribute to making the world a better place." The applause was long and enthusiastic. In the audience, many were crying with emotion. After the ceremony, Dr. Thompson gathered with his family and friends to celebrate. "Grandpa, what comes next?" one asked Olivia. Dr. Thompson smiled. "Now we just keep working. There are still many diseases to cure, many young people to teach, and many discoveries to make." "And what if they try to retire you again?" joked Emily. "Then I remind them that a scientist doesn't retire," replied Dr. Thompson, laughing. They just changed laboratories. The Institute continued to grow, becoming a symbol that intergenerational collaboration in science is not only possible, but essential for great discoveries. Dr. Thompson remained active until he turned 80, when he decided to voluntarily retire from the Institute's directorship, but he continued as a researcher emeritus, guiding new projects and inspiring generations of scientists. At his voluntary retirement party at 80 years old, he gave one last speech. "I've learned that age is just a number when you have a purpose. That experience is a treasure when shared with wisdom, and that the greatest legacy we can leave are the lives we've touched and the discoveries we've made possible." He looked at Olivia, now a doctor and the Institute's deputy director. Science is in good hands, young hands that respect experience, and experienced hands that trust in youth. Emily, now the Institute's general director, concluded the tribute. "Dr. Thompson taught us that knowledge is like a seed. When planted with dedication and watered with persistence, it can grow and bear fruit for generations. The story of Dr. Walter Thompson became a legend in the American scientific community, inspiring lasting changes in how society views aging and the contribution of the more experienced. His compound for neural regeneration saved tens of thousands of lives and paved the way for a new era in the treatment of degenerative diseases. More importantly, his perseverance in the face of age discrimination changed laws, mindsets, and corporate policies, creating a fairer environment for researchers of all ages. The Thompson Institute for Neural Research remains to this day a model of scientific excellence and age inclusion, proving that the greatest discoveries are born when experience and youth work side by side. End of story. Tell us what you thought of this inspiring story. Do you believe the experience of older people should be valued in the world of work? Share your opinion in the comments and say if you know similar stories of people who overcame age discrimination. Don't forget to leave your like to support more stories like this, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other exciting narratives about overcoming adversity and justice. Your participation is essential for us to continue bringing quality content.